Prayers, Sahana Vavadu.
Om Sahana Vavatu, Sahano Bhunaktu, Sahaviryam Karavavahai, Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.
Good evening and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back. My apologies. I know that it is Diwali, so glad that all of you joined. That's so nice. So we'll continue our discussion on chapter 4. And today we are going to cover only 2 verses, but these are some of the most beautiful verses of the Bhagavad Gita. So we have to take our time and understand that. You will, if you get the meaning of these 2 verses, it's amazing. Like some of these most brilliant verses of the Bhagavad Gita we are going to talk about today. So having said that, let's do a quick recap and get into the 2 verses because it's a lot we need to cover. And then finally, at the end, we will have the Q&A. Sorry, there is a small technical issue with the PowerPoint. So we were talking about the Avatara. That was the whole theme. Last week, we spent a lot of time in understanding what is an Avatara. The whole chapter started with a statement from Krishna that this teaching of yoga I taught you, it is nothing new. It is not a teaching I created for you. It is the same ancient teaching. The teaching, by teaching Krishna, what Krishna meant is the karma yoga, jnana yoga combination. He said that is nothing new. So Arjuna had a doubt. If you taught this teaching to Lord Sun at the beginning of the creation, your age seems to be closer to mine. How is that possible? There is an apparent contradiction. So the whole idea of Avatara, it's just a tangent. It is not part of this mainstream discussion. So we need to understand that very first. The whole idea of Avatara was introduced by Krishna when he started giving this Vamsha Kathanam. Vamsha Kathanam means the glorification of the Gita. I may have to restart the PowerPoint, unfortunately. It's hoping that it may not record. Let me restart it. Close. Okay, so we'll restart the program. Okay. So this whole idea of Avatara was introduced as part of this Vamsha Kathanam. And Krishna said, right, there was many birth for you. There was many birth for me. I remember all of them, but you don't remember. Okay. Okay, we are back. Okay, so you don't remember that, but I do remember. The reason is my incarnation is a special incarnation because I am the incarnation of the Ishvara. So we spend a lot of time understanding the difference between an Avatara and a normal incarnation or a reincarnation. The key thing to be noted is that you and I, or the normal human beings or normal beings, are born because of karma. Their place, time, and the body and the circumstances are determined by the karma, whereas Ishvara decides to come down. So we saw some 2 beautiful verses. One thing is to look at that very religiously, that when the righteousness goes down, the God will incarnate in a form. But last week, what we did was we took some time and we tried to understand the details. So for understanding the idea of Avatara, one needs to be familiar with the idea of Dharma. What is Dharma? So we need to have that global understanding or the holistic understanding of Dharma. So we defined Dharma as the natural order of the universe, the law that holds the universe together. Just like the gravity holds everything together in the earth, the planetary laws hold the planetary system together. The law that governs the universe holds the universe together. The social law is that which holds the society together. Think through the whole dimension, because then only you enjoy or appreciate the idea of the Avatara. For example, I gave you a simple example. If the traffic rules were not followed, if that laws were not enforced, it's a chaos. So everywhere, enforcing law or the law is that which holds things together. It is the traffic laws that holds the traffic maintenance. Everywhere, the physiological order, right? If the heart is not beating, that is going to stop, create a chaos in the system. So physically, physiologically, psychologically, sociologically, everywhere this dharma is there. And what Krishna said is, when there is a decay or when there is a disturbance in that universal order, beyond a threshold, a readjustment needs to take place. And that is where the Lord incarnates. Remember the example? One is, suppose I go and fall down into a pond or a lake, that is falling down. But Avatara means knowingly he is jumping. So Ishvara, out of his grace and kindness, he comes to the universe, maybe in the form of a human being. Man or may means maybe in the form of an animal, or maybe in the form of a phenomena. He comes and silently readjusts the universal order. So the purpose of the Avatara is readjustment of the universal order. This brilliantly defined by Swami Vivekananda. We spent a lot of time on this last week. So this is the Avatara. Two famous verses we saw. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati. Look at that. The definition is very clear. When the dharma decays beyond a threshold, at that time, I manifest myself again and again. So this is the idea of Avatara. So this Avatara, we said, again, it's a matter of belief. This matter of belief, remember, we always talk about this idea. The Vedas tells us there are certain things which cannot be proved. So what is that criteria by which you take a faith or a belief? We always talk about what is a belief. What is a belief? A belief is not yet proved. With a pramana, it has to be proved at a later point of time. Because if it is already proved, you won't call it as a belief. You call it as only a fact. There is always a difference between a belief and a fact. So there are certain beliefs which cannot be proved. And if a belief cannot be proved, the simple rule is, let me check whether that belief is beneficial to me, whether that belief is logical. And this idea of Avatara, definitely it is beyond logic, but definitely it's a matter of positivity, because it won't put me down. That's why we take it. So just wanted to be clear. Nobody can prove the Avatara. Nobody can disprove Avatara. So we need to use our logic there. So with that, we can continue to the next verse. So Anu, why don't we chant?
Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo vetti tattvataḥ tyaktvā dehaṃ punarjanma naiti māmeti Arjuna.
Another beautiful verse. Most of the time, this is misinterpreted. A literal meaning of this verse is janma karmacha me divyam. If you know my divine birth and deeds, you will be freed from all the rebirths. Very easily you can interpret this. Very casually you can interpret this. So let's try to understand the meaning, right? So he tells yaha. Yaha is a universal pronoun. Pronoun means whoever he be. It doesn't matter who he is. He can be a man or a woman or an Indian or an American or whoever he be. Whoever practice this. Whoever knows. Vetti means knows. Another word is very important. Tattvataḥ. Tattvataḥ means in reality. The details. Tattva means the details. So the one who knows the details of me as an Avatara, or the one who knows the Ishvara, the one who understands the Ishvara, not merely believing in Ishvara, right? He said the one who, that's why the word tattvā is very important. The word vetti is also very important. So the one who understands Ishvara, when Krishna say me, he is referring as Ishvara. So the person who knows the Ishvara, or the person who understands Ishvara, divyam, janma and karma, the way he manifests and also the actions he performs. So the person who understands the nature of the Ishvara, in this way, evam means properly understand, not merely believing in. So he said, "O Arjuna, tyaktvā dehaṃ punarjanma naiti." He won't have any rebirth. Confusing. This verse can be interpreted in two different ways. So let's try to understand the details and then we will come back. So this verse, the bhakti schools or the religious people, how do they interpret? Anybody can try? If you believe in Krishna, you are saved. If you believe in Jesus, you are saved. If you believe in Rama, you are saved. That's the religious interpretation. But this is Advaita Vedanta. We won't take that way, right? We wanted to understand, not merely believing in. So let's try to deep dive into this verse. That's why I said like this simple looking verse. This is a beautiful verse. So let's try to understand. So let's pause for a second and try to understand. What exactly is the promise given here? The promise given is the person who understands Ishvara properly, right? The two words used. Vetti tattvataḥ, the essence of Ishvara. Tattva means essence. Matam means opinion. This is the difference. Tattva means essence or the truth. Matam means an opinion. An opinion can change, but the tattva cannot be changed. This is two technical terms used in Sanskrit. So for religion, we use matam because it's an opinion. It can be changed and it cannot be exclusive. Whereas tattvam, the nature of God, different religions may have different matam, way of interpretation, but everybody is interpreting the same tattva. This is the idea. So what Krishna is saying here is that a person who knows the Ishvara, the tattvam of the Ishvara, the essence of Ishvara, by knowing means and understanding the birth and also his deeds, meaning his birth and his performance, how an avatara functions in the world, he will not have any rebirth. Once he is dead, he won't have any rebirth. When do you think the rebirth of a person will end? What did we say from chapter 2?
Enlightened. Once
Only enlightened. How the rebirth will be stopped when you get enlightened? Means stopping the rebirth is a negative statement. I would rather say understanding my real identity. So for that, you need to understand rebirth belongs to what? What exactly getting reborn? my subtle body. So there are three entities. One is your physical body, one is your subtle body, and the third one is Atma. So at the time of death, what happens to the physical body? Disintegrates. That is the right word used in the scriptures. Don't say that it will come to an end. Of course, it will transform into a different form. For example, if you burn it, it will become ashes. And what happens to the ashes? The ashes will be part of the earth and it will go like that. If you bury, similar process will happen. So it will disintegrate. That is the word used. What happens to the subtle body? The subtle body will have rebirth according to the law of karma. What happens at the time of enlightenment? Let's say that a person get Jivan Mukti. Second chapter, we saw this in detail. When somebody gets the Jivan Mukti, what happens? He shifts his identity from physical body to subtle body to Atma. And what happens to Atma? Nothing, because the Atma is always there. It is changeless, immutable, or pervading Atma. That is the essence of me. So the moment I detach, means change my identity from the physical body, subtle body combination to Atma, that time what happens? There is no rebirth for me, because earlier for me, the I was the subtle body and the physical body combination. So that subtle body has rebirth. But when I shifted the identity from subtle body to Atma, no more rebirth. So when Krishna said, such a person will not have rebirth, he is telling that the person who knows Ishvara in its essence, he will get enlightened. So now we need to understand very clearly. Shankaracharya spent some time in his commentary here. In the second chapter also, Krishna said there is a way to get enlightened. How? Remember? Prajahati yata kaman sarvan parthamanogatan atmani eva atmana tushtaha. In the second chapter, the approach told by Krishna was, how do you get enlightened? By knowing yourself. Here, Krishna is giving another alternate way. One way of getting enlightened is knowing myself. Another way of getting enlightened is what? Knowing Ishvara. Now you may ask, isn't it contradictory? Who is Ishvara? What is the essence of Ishvara? Let's try to understand that in a second. So this is the model, Vedantic model. There is a connection between the individual and Ishvara. So per the metaphysical model of the Vedanta, there is only one absolute reality. You call it as Brahman. It doesn't have any attribute. It doesn't have any form. And it doesn't have any change. From that absolute reality, what happens? The whole universe, the macrocosm, get manifested. And that is what is known as Saguna Brahma. The absolute reality is known as Nirguna Brahma. The total body, the total mind, the total intellect, the total intelligence. That is what we call as Ishvara. So we need to understand what is Ishvara, what is Brahman, and what is Jiva. Jiva is part of that universal system. It is born out of Ishvara. It exists in Ishvara, and it finally merged back to Ishvara. Whereas the Ishvara or the macrocosm, it born out of Brahman, it exists in Brahman, and finally it comes back to Brahman. Now, the essence of Ishvara, the tattvā of Ishvara is what? Brahman, the reality. And what is the tattvā of individual? That is also Brahman, the reality. So essentially, there is a connection between Jiva and Ishvara. The essence of Jiva is Brahman, the reality. The essence of Ishvara is also Brahman, the reality. So that is how you say Tattvamasi, because Otherwise, it's an apparently incorrect equation. You're saying that a limited individual equal to infinite Ishvara when you say tattvamasi. So the tattvamasi means, see, first of all, an equation, nobody say that 5 equal to 5. But when you say 3 plus 2, the left-hand side apparently different from the right-hand side. That is why you put it as an equation. So the Ishvara, the all-pervading, the macrocosm, the cosmic order of the universe is the individual. It means only the tattvā of Ishvara equal to the tattvā of the individual. So that way, the Ishvara and the individual have a connection. A simple example makes this point very clear. Ocean, wave, and water. Samadrohi tarangaha. This is the famous example used in our scriptures. Ocean is mighty, it is vast, it is infinite. A particular wave comes from that ocean, right? From where the ocean means the wave is born, from the ocean. Where exactly the ocean exists? Sorry, the wave exists in the ocean. And finally, the wave goes back to the ocean. But there is a connection. There is some factor. What is the essence of the ocean? Water. What is the essence of the wave? Again, it is water. Same thing. Now, Krishna tells, the one who knows the truth get liberated. There is 2 ways to get the new truth. So here, in this particular example, I wanted to understand the tattvam of this particular example. The tattvam can be determined either by looking at the essence of a wave or by looking at the essence of the ocean. Why he said that 2 options are there? The 2 options are the same. So now come back. Janma karma cha me divyam. So he tells, if you know the nature of Ishvara, if you know the nature of Ishvara, naturally you know yourself. Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi, in his famous book called Saddarshanam, tells, if somebody says that, I know God, but I don't know myself, he don't know neither God nor himself. On the other hand, if somebody say, I know myself, but do not know the universal intelligence, that's the problem. So, janma karma cha me divyam yo vetti tattvataḥ. So, very important to highlight 2 words, tattvataḥ. Now we say, a bhakti school person will say that, okay, I believe in Krishna's story, or I believe in Rama's story. Tears comes to my eyes. Is he knowing the tattvam? That's the difference. By believing in the story and making a few tears, that won't give you liberation. I'm not criticizing that. It is going to help you to purify your mind. But Advaita Vedanta is different. It needs proper explanation. So the commentator Shankaracharya spends a bit of time using the same example I gave you. This is the way he interprets. By knowing the wave, I know the water. By knowing the ocean, again I can know the water. But he highlights the fact, it's not believing in wave, believing in water, but knowing the essence of the wave, knowing the essence of the water. This is what the connection between wave and ocean. And now, if I understand my true identity as the Brahman, the absolute reality, what is going to happen? So it will end the karmic forces. So I tried to draw a simple diagram. So I know you have been asking a diagram, like how the karma works. Remember, we spent 4 classes to explain this. This is a summary of that. So what happens is, at any point of time, you have a big baggage of karma. And that is what is this sanchita karma. That is your karmic pool. At the time of your birth, what is going to happen? You pull a subset of that, and that is the small baggage. That is the prarabdha karma. And that will cause the birth. And during the birth, what do? You accumulate a new set of karma. And that is what is agami karma. And finally, where that agami karma goes, it goes to the pole of sanchita karma. So this simple diagram shows the whole karmic cycle, which we spent almost 4 classes. So what happens? Who has this? Who is the subject who possesses this baggage? It is the subtle body. So when I shift my identity from the subtle body, what is going to happen? It's no more applicable. It's no more applicable. That's the whole idea. So as long as I am identified with my body and the means physical body and the subtle body, I am bound to the role of karma. Again, you may ask me, what is the proof of the law of karma? No proof. You cannot prove it. But again, imagine that if the whole difference is the creation of a God, do you think that the all-merciful God will do that much of injustice to the world? It's just shifting the responsibility. Karma is not fate, right? We spend a lot of time on this topic. Karma makes me responsible. Karma is a shock absorber. It gives me an opportunity to change myself. It makes me more responsible people. It makes me to do good deeds. So believing in karma theory, is that beneficial or not? Believing in karma theory make you a beneficial, it will benefit you, because if everybody believe in karma, they will be more responsible because they cannot escape from this law of karma. So this is very important. So please remember this diagram, these karma, what is agam. I'm not going to explain this in detail. If you want, like, just refer that 4 videos we did last year, 4 classes with all the details, all the science, all the logic, etc. But sanchita karma, agami karma, prayaschita karma. Please keep that in mind. So let's move.
Rajesh, one quick question.
Yes.
What is the difference between Ishvara and Brahman?
Ishvara means it is the total body, total mind, and total intellect. It is at the beginning of, it is evolved, it is derived from the Brahman. And Ishvara has a beginning and an end, but the Brahman is absolute reality. If you quote the scriptures, it will say Saguna Brahma is Ishvara, the Brahman with attribute, because here Ishvara has attribute, right? He has the total body, total mind, total intellect. To go more technically, out of the Indic schools, Vedanta believes in Ishvara, whereas Sankhya, which we hear always in the Yoga Sutra class, Sankhya don't believe in that Ishvara. Sankhya just go with the absolute reality and matter, nothing but. Now, complicating matter further, yoga, even though it is derived from Sankhya, yoga accepts this issue. So this is the academic details.
Sometimes Ishvara is associated with Shiva and
right,
and sometimes with Vishnu.
Vishnu, absolutely. No, Ishvara can be, now that's a big topic, right?
Yeah.
So Ishvara is like, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa gives a beautiful example. So let's say that there is one light and there is a big black cover on the top of that light. You make a triangle in that black cover. You see a triangular projection coming out. You make a circle. You make means a circular view of the same light is there. So the Ishvara is only one. But depending upon the function, you can visualize that Ishvara in any form you want. So that is the idea of the devata. So we will see that in the Bhagavad Gita later point of time. Bhagavad Gita, we will see that in one verse, whatever form, right? Even in the next, means verse 13, you are going to see, 12, you are going to see. The forms are different, but the essence of Ishvara is only one. So the Shiva is same as that of Vishnu. So if you look at Ishvara from a sustainer, the person who maintains the universe, that is Vishnu. If you look at the same Ishvara, see, the thing is, why these forms are required, right? The forms are required for making a relationship with that Ishvara. So imagine you are not at reach to that absolute Brahman, the reality level, but you need somebody to relate with. So the same Ishvara can be related in any forms I want. I can even create a new form. So that is the freedom given in the scriptures. So Ishvara, the same Ishvara is listed as Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara, Subramanya, and we can add to all the other gods, even means from other scriptures. Still, it is the same. So Ishvara means the best definition given in the Veda is, it is the intelligent order of the universe. It is the material cause of the universe. It is so that the definition is abhinna, nimitta, upadana, karana. Remember the 7th chapter of the Gita when we discussed, the whole idea came in. So abhinna, nimitta, upadana, karana is Ishvara. So saguna Brahman. So this is what is Ishvara and Brahman, the reality.
Oh, so Saguna Brahma is Ishvara.
Saguna Brahma is Ishvara. Nirguna Brahma is absolute reality, the Brahman. So Nirguna Brahma doesn't have any forms. It doesn't have any attribute, nothing. Now, if you want to go in detail, the Saguna Brahma, where exactly it stands, is that immanent or is that transcendent?
Immanent.
It is immanent. So when I pray, I am praying to that immanent Ishvara, whereas the Nirguna Brahman is transcendent. It is in a different order of reality.
So Avatara actually is in the Vyavaharika world, right?
Absolutely.
So for an enlightened person, can they, when compared to another Jiva, will they realize the an Avatara better because they already know?
Maybe, definitely. An enlightened person may definitely recognize an Avatara. For example, in Mahabharata, it is very well written that when nobody in the Kaurava fold was recognizing Krishna, Vidura recognized him. Shabari, a tribal woman, was supposed to be enlightened. She recognized Rama easily. Remember, like a beautiful story given in Ramayana. So absolutely, because they can relate more well. Typically, the other people won't even recognize Avatara and they will curse the Avatara. So
That makes sense.
yeah, so this is, so just try to be clear, have the clarity, right? One is the Nirguna Brahman. From the Nirguna Brahman, the Ishvara comes into being. And from the Ishvara, the whole universe is governed. In between, that Ishvara needs to come down to that Vyavaharika world. So the Ishvara who governs the Vyavaharika world, or the relative reality, or the transactional reality, comes into the world in a small form for some readjustment. That is Avatara. So once again, the order is absolute reality, the Brahman. From the Brahman, the Ishvara comes into being. The whole world is maintained by Ishvara, and this Ishvara comes into the world he projected. He also projects himself into that world. That is where this dream metaphor is very, all these are metaphor, right? So you also project yourself. For what? You want to go and fix something. That's it. Every other being is forced to be born there, but the Avatara decides, okay, I want to be in Mathura. or I want to be in California, or I want to be in the moon, or I want to be in Mars. He decides, but you and I do not have that choice. Now, the answering Anu's last portion of the question, or Jina's last portion of the question, a person gets enlightened, but the body he carries is the body created by his karma. Whereas an avatara, it's a different body. Means technical language, it's a māyika shariram. The other one is a bhautika shariram, a body that is born out of the panchabhuta. So the karmas made the body for an avatara. So that means you could see, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa had cancer. Ramana Maharshi had cancer. Whereas avatara means it is special. The saints and sages can do a little bit more of adjustments. As Ramakrishna Paramahamsa said, when you cross the river Ganga, a small boat can carry a few people and adjust a few people, but a steamboat or a ship, in one shot, it can carry a bunch of people and it is more stable. So this now if you come back and learn the meaning of this verse, janma karma cha me divyam yo vetti tattvataḥ tyaktvā dehaṃ punarjanma. So this is very clear. So if you know the Ishvara, that means you know yourself. If you know yourself, that means you know Ishvara. But whether you know the reality through the Ishvara or whether you know the reality through yourself, you know the truth. And it is the truth that liberates you. So if you look at the Bhagavad Gita, those who come to the 7th chapter, I said like the first 6 chapter is mainly talking about the individual. The second 6th chapter is talking about the Ishvara, why he is giving those two perspectives. If you know any one of them, you're good. Properly. So this is the idea. So
one question, Rajesh.
Yeah.
So incarnation. So does the body, if it is a human body, so does it abide by the universal laws? Like
it is his
dharma,
choice.
like body
Yeah.
dharma and all that?
Yeah, it follows the dharma, but it is his choice. So
No, not following. Does it have to follow the dharma?
of course, it will follow the dharma, because when Ishvara comes into the world, Krishna tells, right, in the 3rd chapter, I don't have to do any of these things, but I try to follow all the rules. Why?
Like exercise and all
Everything he will do because he wants to set an example. Remember the 3rd chapter, Krishna said, right? Name parthavani kartavyam trishu lokeshu kinchana. I don't have to do anything, but I do more. Because otherwise, what is going to happen? I'll set a wrong example. So you can see Krishna sitting and praying, Krishna going to the Gurukula. Who is Sandipani to teach Krishna? Who is Vasishta to teach Rama? Right? All this, who is somebody to teach Buddha? Who can teach Jesus Christ? It's impossible, but they follow certain dharmas. Typically, they follow all these rules and regulations. And to get out of this karmic cycle, the only means is knowledge. So please don't think that this is a fanatical assertion. We are saying that, no, it's only through Vedanta we didn't say. We said that only knowledge can liberate a person. And that knowledge can come from any scriptures. So that's it. So once you know the knowledge will reveal your true identity. Right? When I am no more identified with that wrong identity, I'm not suffering. Let's go to a good example, good old example. In dream, somebody got corona. The suffering of the corona lasts only when I realize my true identity. The moment you wake up, I got my true identity. Are you any more suffering with corona? That's it. So the scope of karma is pretty much limited to the physical body and the subtle body. When I leave my identity with the physical body and the subtle body, yes, as long as I am in that time and space, I may have to face that challenge. But I'm not confined to that problem alone. Swami Chinmayananda brilliantly explains this. He said, if you are a samsari, meaning you are identified with your body and the mind, everything is a problem. But for an enlightened person, of course, he also may have problems, these challenges, right? He will have a cancer, or he may have the other challenges. All that will be there. But for him, it's a situation. A situation can be managed, a problem is more difficult. So that's the change here. So the knowledge will liberate you from the karmic cycle, and that knowledge is either the essence of Ishvara or the essence of the Jiva. So in this verse, Krishna tells, those who knows me, my essence. Underline that word. That's why Vyasa is not randomly picking up word. He picks up every word properly. So the word tattvā is very important. The essence. So Krishna tells, right, the truth of the reality can be known by knowing the individual self or Ishvara. So the one who knows the reality of the Ishvara knows the reality of himself and the absolute, because tattvamasi, I am that. So such a person will be freed from the cycle of death and birth. And such a person reaches the state of Ishvara. So what was the last word of this verse? I know if you chant that verse one more time. Janma karma cha me divyam.
Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo vetti tattvataḥ tyaktvā dehaṃ punarjanma naiti māmeti so Arjuna.
Māmeti, he will attain my state. He didn't say that you will come near me or you will come to me. He said, you will attain my state. You becomes me. Look at the way Advaita Vedanta goes in. If you are a dualist, you will say that after the death, you will go near. There are so many muktis these dualists talk, right? Salokya mukti, sayujya mukti, etc. The dualists will talk. So when you die, you go near in the Vishnu lokam. One is you go to the place where Vishnu lives, so you are happy. And another thing is you go and have a face-to-face darshan of Vishnu always. No, that's not what Krishna tells. He said, you reach my state. Swami Chinmayananda says, if you go to Vishnu and look at him and Lakshmi 24/7, either you will be bored or you will see the fight between those two. That's what is going to happen. So this is how the Advaita Vedanta approaches. It is so rational.
One question, Rajesh, if they also follow Bhagavad Gita, right? Dualists or Dvaita.
It's a different interpretation. That's all. Yes.
So it is meaning they interpret it so differently?
It's so differently. Yeah. So differently. So they say every verse they interpret it so differently. So I'm not saying, I don't want to comment on that, but you can look at the word Sanskrit meaning with grammar. It tells very clearly what exactly it means. Krishna said, they reach my state. The next verse also tells you what is means. So, yeah, because see, Dvaita, Advaita, Vishishta Advaita, the same scriptures people used to interpret using three different lenses, three different schools. Advaita is not for the common public, right? A common person wants a God, right? Means something different. So such beginning stages, you can follow the dualist theory. There is nothing wrong in that. So you are a wave and the God is the ocean. So who is the creator of the wave? Ocean. Who is the sustainer of the wave? Ocean. Whom the wave should pray? Ocean. No problem. If you go a little bit further, You can say that, hey, the wave is part of the ocean, not completely different, which is also true. That is the Vishishtadvaita. And if you go one step further, you can say that the essence of the wave is the essence of the ocean. So these are not conflicting theory, but three different perspectives of the same truth. So let's keep it that way. Okay, so I just wanted to bring one verse from the Bible. This chapter of Bible is very favorite chapter of mine, which is the book of John. This is the book where you start with, in the beginning, there was Word. Word was with God, and the Word was God. That famous statement is there. So the book of John tells, right? He who receives the Avatara, meaning the Son of God. The John is talking about the Son of God. He came his own. Remember, look at the definition of Avatara. I just wanted to show. He came how? The God came into the earth by how? By his own will. And his own did not receive him. But those who did receive him, those who believed in him, those who understood him, what happens? They became himself, children of God himself. Look at the similarity. The whole Avatara is described in different language. So I just wanted to show you how the scriptures are correlated. Only thing is that you need to look at it properly. That's it. Okay, that's a sidebar. Now let's go to, now Krishna said, if you know Ishvara, the tattvā of Ishvara, you will know, you will be freed from all the karmic cycle, you will realize the truth. But how to know the Ishvara? That is the essence of the next verse. That's here. Anu, could you chant?
vītarāgabhayakrodhā manmayā māmupāśritāḥ bhavo nātpasā pūtāmadbhāvamāgataḥ.
The whole Gita, the practice of the entire yoga is summarized in this one verse. Please remember this verse. This is one of the most important verses of Gita. 4th chapter, verse 10. The entire scheme of yoga, that means, remember in the Yoga Sutra, we studied that integrated view of yoga. That is captured in this one verse brilliantly by Lord Krishna. It talks about all the practices that are required. So he says, vītarāgabhayakrodhā. Raga is what? Binding attachments. Bhaya means extreme fear. Krodha means rage. So the one who is not controlled by these extreme emotions, that's what it means. Vita means free, or one who has control over the emotions. In the modern world, a person who has control over the emotions, how do we call him? What is the technical term we use in modern management? Emotional intelligence. So a person who is emotionally intelligent, if I paraphrase this, a person who is emotionally intelligent, the one who is free from all these emotional disturbances, then manmayā, completely absorbed in me, a person whose mind is focused on me, entirely focused on me. Two ways to interpret it. One is a person who always follow Dharma, the person who can focus himself completely on Ishvara. Then what? Upasana, the one who surrenders to that higher principle, Ishvara. Or if you don't believe in Ishvara, a higher principle. So the person who dedicates his actions, the person who surrenders to Ishvara completely, the person who is emotionally intelligent, the person who can focus completely on Ishvara at will, completely absorbed, a person who can get completely absorbed in Ishvara, a meditative absorption, that is what is manmayā. And then bhavo jnana tapasa, the person who pursue the path of knowledge as a strict discipline, who purify himself through the path of knowledge, he tells Puta. Puta means he will be purified. And what happens? Matbhavam agataha. Matbhavam means my nature. Again, so it is so clear. He said he didn't come to me. He said he will get into my nature. He will attain my essence. So the whole spirituality is summarized in one verse. Very, very simple, right? First is you have to be emotionally intelligent. You have to have a purified mind. You have to have a focused mind. And you have to have the knowledge. Karma yoga, upasana yoga, jnana yoga. Whole thing is brilliantly combined in this one verse. So let's try to see the details. So the first one is how to connect the Supreme with the Supreme. So the whole thing is knowing the higher reality of the universe, Ishvara, or establishing in your own high self, means your own self. It is the only way to get out of the karmic cycle. We have seen that. Knowledge is the only way. So how to detach yourself from your current identity and get connected to the higher? The first thing you need to do is you need to purify your mind. You need to get freedom from emotions. Otherwise, what is going to happen? I cannot focus. I cannot get absorbed in that samadhi. It's impossible. And then once you have a purified mind, you have to follow the discipline of knowledge. That will take you to the higher. So this is in two steps. So first one is gain freedom from emotions and have a pure, calm, controlled mind. Once it is done, you pursue the path of knowledge, you go to the higher. So these are the two steps. We have discussed this multiple times, but just this slide is the slide you wanted to focus here. So the first one is you want to gain freedom from emotional dependency. Vītarāgabhayakrodhā. Then total surrender to Ishvara. Manmayā māmupāśritāḥ. Māmupāśritāḥ. This is the essence of karma yoga. What is karma yoga? Remember? Proper work with proper attitude. And what is that proper attitude? Ishvara arpana buddhi, prasada buddhi. That's exactly what is described here. And then totally absorbed in me, higher. Upasana yoga. Meditative absorption. That is manmayā. Everything is me. You don't see anything else. So the samprajñā, the samadhi we have seen, that's exactly what is described here. So I don't see anything else but you. So upasana. Upasana has, what is the meaning of upasana? Asana means sitting. Upa means?
Closer.
Closer. What is the closest to me?
Self.
Self.
Yes.
So any practice that is getting closer to yourself, you're forgetting that is all the meditations will come under here. And you're saying that, Krishna is saying that, upāśritāḥ. So then what? Once it is done, bhagato jnana tapasa. Follow the discipline of knowledge. I just put it only in sequence. That's it. Then what he say? Puta matbhavam agataḥ. You gain my state. Again, is there anything to be any doubt here? Did he say that you come to me? Did he say that you go to heaven? Puta matbhavam agataḥ. You are gaining my state. No, I don't know how this can be interpreted in a different way. The basic Sanskrit tells you that it is matbhava agataḥ. So attains the state of Ishvara. So this slide is important and this verse is also important. So a couple of observations. There is no real difference between the individual and Ishvara in its essence. That is what is tattvamasi. So Vivekananda used to say, God enchained is man and man unchained is God. It's not much difference. If you are bound by your karma and the bondage, you are a man. So God enchained is man, man unchained is God. This is Vivekananda's usage. Beautiful. Then he say, the seeming difference is caused by the errors of perception, because I take myself as the body and the mind and I get suffering. So this vision of non-difference is highlighted in Krishna's words, because he said, if you follow these things, mind you, you attain my state. Bhuta mat bhavam agataḥ. One more point, we'll stop there. This jnana tapas. Tapas means what? Typically, what is the meaning of the word tapas? When you say tapas, what comes to your mind? Swami Chinmayananda used to say, it is the moment you say tapas, the picture comes to you is somebody hanging from a tree or sitting on one leg, etc. No. The word tapas means what? Tapa means heat. You're consistently following a path, disciplined, consistent, means consistent effort in a particular direction is called tapas. So typically the people say tapas is only at the physical level, say fasting, physical austerity. You will see this in the 17th chapter. Krishna tells the highest form of austerity or tapas is mental austerity. And that too, if you seek knowledge, that is the highest form of tapas. So the knowledge seeking is always considered in our tradition as a tapas. The knowledge will not come easily without putting effort. There is no shortcut. You cannot eat a pill and gain the knowledge. It's not possible. So you have to put hard work is the only solution. There is no shortcut. That's why when I talk to some people, they say like, for the engineering exam, we just took 1 week off during that study holidays and studied and passed the exam. But now if you ask how many layers are there in the network system, they don't know. If you had followed that tapas, you will not forget it. So knowledge seeking is a tapas. This is a big topic. I'll do one offline session on that. How to learn. It's given in our scriptures brilliantly. This is a tapas. So when the tapas attitude goes away, what happens? The education becomes cheap. The human mind should be raised to the level of knowledge. That's why we always considered this knowledge seeking as a divine act. So every knowledge is spiritual and we respect that. So if you have that attitude, the scriptures tells what is learned, it will be digested and it will be assimilated. A beautiful example is, so once you follow this knowledge, learn this knowledge properly, what is going to happen is, these 3 practices, it's not Shankara, but a commentator after Shankara said, like, you're building an internal refinery. What a refinery does, you give the raw material and finally the refined stuff will come out. So whatever input you take from the world, it could be garbage, but when it comes to you, it will be refined. It's a beautiful example. So there are 3 impurities in this world. The first one is called malam, which is the impurities of the mind. The second one is called vikshepam, it is the turbulence of the mind. And the third one is called avaranam, which is the veiling or the ignorance. So the 3 problems you need to solve to cross the spiritual path. One is the malam, which is the second one, which is known as the impurities. The second one is called vikshepam, which is called the turbulence of the mind. And the third one is avaranam, which is the ignorance of the mind. So how do you solve these 3 problems? The mala nivritti is done through the karma yoga. You already saw the two methods here. You need to gain the emotional intelligence. The only way you can gain the emotional intelligence is only through the Ishvara arpana buddhi and the prasada buddhi. Because otherwise, remember the third chapter? He was telling the past worries and the future anxieties is going to haunt you, and it is going to take away your ability to put your best effort in the present. So emotions has to be controlled properly. And without surrendering to Ishvara, the true emotional intelligence will not come. So surrender to Ishvara. Then after that, follow these meditative practice. Means get the mind absorbed in Ishvara. That is the meditative practice. That will give you the chitta sthiti, which is the vikshepa nivritti. So the mala nivritti is achieved through karma yoga. The vikshepa nivritti is achieved through the upasana yoga, the meditative practices. And finally, the avarana nivritti, the veil of ignorance, is removed through the jnana yoga, which is the jnana tapas here. So all the three steps are highlighted in this one verse brilliantly by Krishna. Usually people don't quote this verse, but personally I feel that this is one of the most important verses of the Gita, because it covers the entire scope of the Gita practices in one verse. So we covered two verses. The first verse is by knowing the Ishvara, the essence of Ishvara, right? Tattvā. The tattvā of the Ishvara will help me to cross the karmic bondage, because that will give me the necessary knowledge. And then how do I know the Ishvara? By following karma yoga, upasana yoga, and jnana yoga. This will take you to my state. It's a big promise. Mat-bhava agataḥ. Just remember that, because he didn't say that you come to me, or you come near me, or you come to my vicinity. Nothing. It is crystal clear. Okay, so that concludes the session. I know if you could chant the Purnamada, we will go to the Q&A after that for 10 minutes.
Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevāvashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Guru Pyo Namaha.